reading through Charlotte Macalusso's resume, and she was the principal for Risley Middle School. She was the principal for Risley Middle School for 6 years. So for 6 years, she ran Risley Middle School, and then it failed, and then it is now being run by the state. The state has taken over the former middle school, Risley, that Charlotte Macalusso used to be the principal. I also had read that she felt that administration was a promotion over being a teacher, but isn't that the joys of teaching? You're not actually teaching when you're an administrator. You're just a bureaucrat, so it doesn't feel like a promotion to me. What it feels like, actually, is we're promoting incompetence. So she's a crappy teacher, all right, be an administrator. She's a crappy administrator, all right, be a principal. Oh, you failed at being a principal? Well, hell, why don't you just go ahead and be superintendent? Should support me because I stand for direct democracy, a government run by and accountable to the community, along with the incremental transformation to a self-sufficient and sustainable economic system. I also look to balance and mediate the diversity that composes Pueblo through open forums, community oversight committees, and requests for proposals. At the same time, I'll be aggressive towards our economic security by promoting cooperatives, worker self-directed enterprises, and other forms of economic permaculture. I'm a registered independent college graduate and a student of psychology and philosophy. So that was a response to why should voters support you to 29, I think he's 30 now, but 29-year-old Joshua Bruns. So Joshua Bruns is a philosopher, and like Norway hired themselves a philosopher. So he's reading Hobbes and all these different works, but essentially he is the moral. Josh Bruns is also talking about sustainability. He's talking about walkability. In fact, I would call that the Josh Bruns principle. So Josh Bruns principle is the increase the walkability. The more walkability an area is, the more eyes and ears that are there, more witnesses, the less the crime. And that is the direction that we need to go. Everybody just holding themselves in their own houses and being alienated and then having dogs bark at anybody and everybody. That is not the direction that we want to go. We don't want to alienate ourselves anymore. I don't want a bunch of vicious dogs barking up throughout the neighborhood. I want to see people. I want to see American people. I want to see kids playing in the middle of the street, playing football, playing tag. I want to see families going out for a stroll. I want to see people going for bike rides, and I want people to get out and about and to socialize with their neighbors and to get to know one another. That's the Josh Bruns principle, and it's genius. So he should be our city's philosopher. Michael Stapleton and Jason Muniz went to the NAACP forum or whatever it was, debate, and that's pretty remarkable. Michael Stapleton said he wanted to get out of his comfort zone. Jason Muniz, I'll say this on Jason Muniz. So Jason Muniz, I had expected a lot more. So when it comes to him versus Clarice Navarro, he had the entire establishment that backed him. He was the Democratic darling. And so he had, all that backing, and so he has all that sort of momentum going into city council. He didn't come up with a platform, which I was very disappointed in. It's like I have to sit there and just try to beg and pull straws. What do you believe? What do you actually stand for? Anything? And so Jason Muniz, his optics are really good. He played that knocker ball game, and if I was, feeling better at the time, I would have, checked it out. But, optics. The optics. I like that he's serious. I think that he's left of center. I think he is. I don't know. And he also ran a very positive campaign. So the knocker ball thing I really like because it showed that he was humble and he's, playful and he's playing around, and then he actually got hit and he flipped over, and that was good. That was a really good little campaign stunt. And so the optics is good, and he was one of the front runners, I thought, to begin with. But largely I've been disappointed. There was one really dumb thing that he said at the debate, the Pueblo Chieftain debate at the Pueblo Community College. He had said that we don't want to go back to the 1950s, right? The charter was written in the 1950s. Bob Schilling said the charter was written in 1952. So Bob Schilling don't even know the actual year that the charter was written. The charter of 1952, it's the charter of 1954. So the charter of 1954 The 1954 charter was progressed as we changed from a commission-style government to a city manager-style government, which is where history goes. The arc of history is going towards the city manager. So that's the model city. The model cities, they have a city manager charter. The trend is going towards city managers. There's only a few mayors left in the country, and so this is going backwards. He's acting like, oh, we're going to go back to the 1950s. Well, Pueblo City actually had 23 mayors to begin with. 23 mayors, and they were corrupt, and it was a graft and a spoil system. It was the 1870s during the Gilded Age when the capitalists ran roughshod on everybody else, and the politicians were but the scenery, just, windows, salad dressing, and they were inconsequential. So it was one of the mayors, one of the last mayors, wound up getting 200 indictments against them. So Jason Muniz is acting like we don't need to go back to the 1950s. He's actually going back farther. He's going back to the 1870s. So he's going to go back to the 1870s when everything was corrupt and the spoil system and the corporations did as the fuck as they please. So if you weren't on board with the railroad policy, well, then eventually they'd spend a bunch of money and they'd boot you out. This is a big problem because that's the reason why you had, the massacre, the Ludlow massacre. And the Ludlow massacre was the corporations shooting at the working class people. And so 1950s wasn't even, that was actually the heyday of middle class, white middle class. So the 1950s wasn't even that bad. We got the interstate, we got the airport, we got a bunch of parks all over the place. So we constructed a whole bunch of capital improvement projects in the 1950s during the Eisenhower consensus era. And so to say, oh, we don't want to go, I don't want to go backwards ever, but he's going way far back. Here's an interesting article about the war chest. How much money did the candidates, how much did they get here in Pueblo City? So Dennis Flores had $10,500 in contributions for his run at an at-large seat, according to politicsofhope.com. So Dennis Flores had the most. He had $10,000 pumped into his campaign. Where'd that money go? I haven't seen much of Dennis Flores. His signs, his name, his message, $10,000. Okay, so Flores is among 7 candidates for 2 at-large seats. Kevin Cover had $2,000. Joe Latino had $900. And no, hold on. Kevin Cover had $22.71. So Kevin Cover had more than he's number 2, right? And then $2,000 for Joe Latino, $907 for Jason Muniz, and then $500 for Mark Aliff. And then Aisha Urin and Charlotte Flores had the most political experience in the field. He's loaned himself $4,500 and then collected $5,800 from others. So more than half of it was donated to him. Who has given him $5,800? Where did he get this chunk of change from? He does sit on the advisory board of the U.S. Bank. Well, that makes me nervous. So when we get bonds and we start talking about getting the loans for the city, is he going to make sure U.S. Bank has first dibs? So working, I'm sure that's a great little resume builder. Oh, look, he's part of the machine. He knows how things works. And if I can trust that he wouldn't give a shit more about his banker friends than the people, but I can't say one way or the other. So I would like to hope that he would stick for the people, but he might be for U.S. Bank above all else and make sure they get first dibs on all the new bonds at the city. So Latino spent $1,100 of his own money out of the $2,000 in his own campaign. So that means he got donated $900. Who gave Joe Latino $900? Kevin Cover put $240 into his own race, but he got $2,271. So he's got still over $2,000. Who donated that to Kevin Covert? So who does Kevin Covert represent? Who are giving him, who's all these folks' circle of friends? Because you're not just electing the individual, but you're electing their little circles. So there was 3 candidates in District 1. Tommy Farrell had $1,435. Michael Stapleton had $775. Bob Schilling reported only $250 in contributions. Councilman used his money left over from his campaign 4 years ago, $150 in contributions, but that's added to $1,719 in leftover money. And then Bruns had $325. Other contributions, campaign contributions. So the Strong Mayor form of government, their campaign, whoever that group is, they got over $7,000, $7,380. So they got over $7,000. in the Strong Mayor Forum. So ballot question 2A. Then notable givers are the late Wally Steele, the retired Pueblo lobbyist who died earlier this month. He gave $1,000 to the campaign in May. Jerry Montgomery of the Montgomery Stewart Funeral Directors gave $1,000. Jeff Chostner gave $450. Nick Gardasar gave $450 as well. So Jerry Montgomery, Wally Steele, Jeff Chostner, Nick Gradisar, retired Pueblo County Commissioner Kathy Farley contributed $500. So that's interesting. Why are the county commissioners in favor of this? The county commissioners are in favor of this because it's not in favor of home rule cities. This does feel like the county's disease is seeping. Last thing, Citizens for a Safe and Accountable Pueblo is back at 300. They're asking for, taxes, and they had reported no contributions. None. So 0 contributions on that front. Now, what are we looking at with Dennis Flores? Well, Dennis Flores has an impressive resume. The U.S. Bank thing is alarming. He's also a member of the establishment. So the Colorado State Board of Governors, he's doing that right now. Colorado State University system, he's a voting member. So he's impressive, right? He sounds really important. The committee assignments of the Colorado State University system is the Executive at Large, Evaluation, Academic and Student Affairs Chair, Audit and Finance, and his term expires the end of next year, December 31st, 2018. He had been a member of the school board for 2 times, and I believe he said in 93 and in 98. So the things that I like about Dennis Flores, he's not a Republican. He's in favor of the street repair tax. He's for the free market when it comes to marijuana licenses, and he believes that the city departments should be more user-friendly. Of course they are. That's the point for having city departments. Now, the bad positions, he says with the big strong mayor thing, which is illegal, so he didn't read the charter, he didn't read the changes, he didn't actually look at the thing and make his own determination. He doesn't know the charter, doesn't seem to understand constitutional law, he doesn't understand the power of home rule city, so he didn't read the document and then say, yes, I want to do it. He did actually say that he was on record for saying that he was in favor of the weak mayor system. And so that's interesting, right? As the weak mayor system, he wanted a strong legislative branch, which is where I was at. But before we get any, so he's also in favor of 2B. He's also wants to look at the heroin. So he's basically stealing Charlotte Perez's platform. It says we got to, address the heroin. We got to address the suicide epidemic, and then that's exactly what Dennis Flores is saying, right? Let's look at the heroin. Let's look at he's in favor of 2B, which is 24 more cops into the current paradigm, and it also has a clause, an infinite tax clause to where they could just raise up taxes whenever the hell they want to raise up taxes. The reason why I cannot be in favor of more police, because we need criminal justice reform. We need homelessness reform. We are locking up the homeless. We are locking up petty drug possession crimes and other petty crimes. So we are filling the current jail up with too many people above capacity because of the war on drugs, because of homelessness, because of poor money management, right? This is the personnel, the Qing dynasty. They all want to get good health benefits, but we need, good capital improvements. Tighten your belt. The county's got $180 million. Take one of those $1 million and actually clean up your damn jail. That's bad positions when it comes to Dennis Flores. He's all about 2B. He's all, says leave it to the people when it comes to the strong mayor. Just leave it to the people. Leave it to the people. Why don't we ask them if they want a charter convention, if they want to actually change the form of government the right way? Ask them that. That's the question that should be asked if we want to do this thing legally. So he's the establishment, and if I was running in that race, I would have, I definitely would have been very critical of him throughout the entire race. So he seems like he knows what he's doing, but he also could be pro-big business, pro-big banks. I don't know who his circle of friends is. He's the advisory board member of the U.S. Bank of Pueblo, so he's fraternizing with big banks. Will U.S. Bank get all the big bond contracts? So whereas Kenny O'Neill and Joe Latino, they have the pillars of unity, so I know their circle of friends, but who is Dennis Flores' circle of friends? Dennis Flores is also pro-Pedco. For a Pedco, so he's all about Pedco, loves Pedco. And Joe Latino said it was $60 million. I don't know where he got that figure from or, what the hell's going on. So I remember the line about we need to quit treating the east side like Puerto Rico. That was from Charlotte Perez, essentially saying that we need to bypass Pedco, but we don't need to let Pedco off the hook. Don't let Pedco, if there's $60 million just sitting there with Pedco, the whole point is job recruitment. So if we get a grocery store, you think we get some jobs? Of course we do. If we get any kind of, a pharmacy or grocery store or any essential stuff, and Petco helped it out, that creates jobs. That's the point. So I don't know where he's at on waste to electricity technology. I don't know where he's at on solar trees. So when it comes to the Bruns principle, he wants more solar trees because that increases the walkability of Pueblo City. That's the Bruns principle. Increase the walkability, lowers the crime. We need a gentleman that had actually gone to the school board, and he was saying that if you go to the middle schools in D60, you actually get dumber as time goes on. So that means you put your kid in the school system, they're not getting better, they're not getting educated, they're not getting smarter, they're getting more compliant, their souls are being killed and smashed, and they're having to endure the oppression. And so I can't believe any of the school board candidates didn't pick up that ball and run with it. I mean, it is a failing school. They've already taken over 3 different schools. So this does not bode well for D60. Macalusa has been in there for at least 1 year. The main power of the school board is to fire and hire the superintendent. So here's a article here about the sheriff's office denying the excessive use of excessive force. So they're being sued by Juanita Macbeth. Apparently she was drunk and she was drinking and driving, but they tortured her. She had trauma to her head. The court case, which was filed October 23rd in U.S. District Court in Denver, the lawsuit, that's also another thing. The only way we get justice is if we could get a private attorney to sue them. So that's ridiculous. They're saying that excessive force was used, injuries, and she had to go have surgery. So, and to be honest, I believe her. I believe that she was drunk and that she had been drinking and driving, but they're saying that in the jail cell that she was aggressive and hostile and combative and all this other stuff. So she says that the officer slammed her face against the table in the holding room, pulled out her hair, stripped her naked, knee-kicked her in the back multiple times, and used a stun gun on her. And then she was left without help for at least 10 hours and telling them that she needed medical attention. And so it doesn't say exactly how much she's suing for, but Kirk Taylor, the sheriff of Pueblo County, is listed in the lawsuit. They want a brand new jail. They want a brand new jail. We don't have criminal justice reform, but they want a brand new jail. In the lawsuit, Macbeth says that she eventually goes to Parkview Medical Center, and the staff noted several crushing and displacement of her left arm, and then evidence of trauma to her head and to her left hip. So that's, the hospital is one of the most important things to the case. But they want some more money. This isn't the first time they've been sued. After chasing down the killer of Ricky Muniz, they went into an elderly couple and made them stand over like this and that and hurt their back. And there's been 2 people that died in jail. There's been 2 people that's been killed by the police. And they said it was justified, but was it? And then the jail things, it was just a medical emergency. So they go into jail and then they have a heart attack and then they die. So just a few things that I've heard, there's good, but then there's a lot of bad too, and we need to eliminate the bad.